Franklin Chancey and John Stanberry and myself, Steve Doball Hickson. Good to be with you this morning.
Good morning.
I guess this week's been a hard week. You know, I had to stay up and watch that ball game the other night. What a great game that was.
It was a great ball game.
I mean, if you didn't like football, you would have liked this game. That was one great game. Then stayed up last night and watched that debate. What did you think about the debate last night?
You mean the State of the Union?
State of the Union. I'm sorry. I said debate. I'm sorry. They're talking about the debate. I'll tell you one thing. I laughed. They're talking about the debate now. Hillary's wanting to step up and change the debate times. Come to find out, the reason for the Democrats, the reason the debates were set up where nobody would be watching them was because Hillary was so far ahead that they didn't think there was any use having any debates, so they just scheduled them around some weak times. But now, since she's getting behind, they're wanting to try to change the time of the debate so she can be seen a little more.
Well, you've got Bernie Sanders and even O'Malley both, and now you've got some outside liberal interest groups that are actually, I don't know if they've sued the DNC yet or not, but they're claiming that the rules have been rigged to help Hillary.
Well,
now, these aren't.
I don't think anything could help Hillary, I'll be honest with you. Franklin thinks I'm crazy, I guess, but how's Hillary doing these days, Franklin?
Well, if you look in those two states, she's got some issues. If you look nationally, she's got a 20-point lead. So that's a difficult question to answer.
Lead over Bernie?
Nationally, she's way ahead. In Iowa and New Hampshire, though, she's running behind right now.
And behind there?
Right there. Question is, what would happen after that?
Yeah.
Of course,
and that's a fair question there.
The newest email news probably is a real problem for her, and the word is that her camp's actually pretty worried about this one.
I'd say they're real worried about it. What about all the...
Well, you've had her for the entire time, even though every excuse for the emails has been proven, you have to say a lie, but we'll be generous and say false, now that we're up to 1,300 emails that have classified information. But now you have an email where one of her direct deputies says, I can't send you this information because there's a problem with the secure server. And she says, now this is Hillary Clinton herself, strip the classifications, in other words, the markings, off of it and send it unsecured.
What they haven't said is that the body of the email contained classified information.
Franklin, why would it have had a heading to strip?
John,
Franklin, that is patently...
Hold on.
You are smarter than that.
No, I'm not, John. I'm dumb, according to you.
Well, you are if you believe that.
But that's not
You're
the point.
proving it right
Not
now.
the point. Once again, nobody has come out and said that what was in that email was classified.
Franklin, first off, the email that has actually been released is redacted. So what'd they redact?
Whether it's redacted or not doesn't make it at a high classification.
Franklin, if it wasn't classified, would it have had a classified heading to be stripped?
Sometimes yes, sometimes no.
No, Franklin, they don't. Oh, let me see. George, stop by the grocery store on the way home and bring Hillary a gallon of milk. We better redact that.
Once again, I will
Franklin,
be happy to comment on facts, and I'm not going to comment on your hypothesis.
Let me give you the fact.
And that's what this whole thing is.
Well, Franklin, then you comment on this fact, because I'm going to read you exactly what Hillary said, okay? She was told that they couldn't send it. Now, these are her words. If they can't,
that's exactly
turn
what I said.
into non-paper with no identifying heading and send non-secure. Tell me what that means.
I mean, she's trying to declassify.
No, wait a minute. You've said that we don't know what was in it. Tell me any other explanation for that sentence from Hillary Clinton.
John?
She was trying to declassify.
Please don't prove yourself ignorant.
No.
Because you're getting ready to.
The answer is, it's possible there could be classified information in there. It's also possible that there isn't.
Why would she say that if there wasn't classified information on it? First off, Franklin,
John,
if there was no classified information on it, why would it not have sent?
They were having trouble with a server.
With the secured server.
Hey, John.
And the headings are what trigger the blocks on that. Hey. So she's telling her underling, strip the headings off of it.
Once again, John, nobody has said what was in the body of the thing was classified.
Because it's been redacted. They actually put it out and it's redacted.
Hey, John.
which means it's
John.
classified.
John, that's not necessarily
Hey,
what that
John.
means at all.
Hey, John.
What?
What difference does it make?
Well, here's the big difference that it makes. This puts to lie several things that she said. One of the things she said was, she's just a little grandma that doesn't understand the technology. Well, here she is, very clear with the technology. Strip it off, turn it into non-paper, and send it non-secured. That's someone that expertly understands the system. She understands what flags an email as secure, and she's telling him to remove it. The second problem with it is, she says there was no secure things sent. If that's the case, why is she giving instructions to strip the classifications off of an email? This proves her lies.
It doesn't
multiple
prove
times.
anything.
It proves it.
What
out.
does it prove? What is she saying when she says that, Franklin? Now, let me talk, John. What is she trying to tell someone when she says those things, those words? What is she saying?
It could be interpreted as extra care when it comes across.
By stripping it
By
and sending
email.
it
So wait a
non-secure?
minute. Wait a minute. No, let me finish. So that makes it secure for her to strip it.
Possibly. Again, I'm not telling you that John's wrong. I'm insisting that he wait till he gets the facts. That's all.
You'll never
And I
get
don't
the
know
facts. You'll never get the facts from Hillary.
Well, the email.
Or from the State Department, Franklin. They drug this out. They've had this all along.
There's
Why
a,
wasn't
there's
this?
a court reviewing those, John.
Well, Franklin, here's another problem for you. We now know that the FBI has opened a third branch of their investigation. Actually, they didn't open it. Apparently, this has been ongoing since last March, into public corruption charges, because they are now looking at whether there was coordination between Clinton Foundation donations and the State Department and favors and things like that within the department.
Okay.
So a third wing of this is now public corruption.
Okay.
Were you going to try and explain that away?
Nope.
Explain away somebody looking at something? No, I'm not going to try to explain it away.
Well, let me give you, you remember Bob Woodward, you know, the guy that investigated and
remember
broke the Watergate? This is Bob Woodward. Now, this is his take on this. By taking it off, it's just a piece of paper that has a bunch of paragraphs, and there's no classification. There's no subject, so it's not in the system. So no one can discover it through Freedom of Information Act or some sort of subpoena. Now, he actually says that she was there for the Watergate hearings and learned, don't write anything down. So here's Bob Woodward saying one reason for stripping it is so that you can keep it hidden, which the Clintons have been wonderful at. But, you know, Bob Woodward, you know, he's a real radical right-wing partisan Republican,
Once
right?
again, I didn't say you're wrong. You're so insanely caught up in the fever
I'm caught up
that
in
you
the
can't
fact
wait
that
for
someone
facts.
like, let me put it to you this way, Franklin. If she was a Republican, I don't care how much I had liked her. When this comes out, I go, it is clearly obvious that
John.
she is.
Oh, John, don't even go
Franklin,
down that
Bob Dole walked into the White House and told Richard Nixon, you have done too much damage to the country, too much damage to the presidency, too much damage to the Republican Party. You need to resign.
John,
That's
all
what we do.
All you got
And
is
he
that
did.
50 years ago, the Republican Party did something right one day, one time.
Actually,
Thank
Franklin,
you so much for that lecture in
in
ethics.
50 years since, you all have never done it. All of your guys have been protected.
Oh, really? Really?
Yes,
You mean
really.
like the President of the United States, Ronald Reagan, when he was allowed to just say, oh, I must have just forgot that I decided to trade arms for hostages.
Well,
with
Franklin,
no
first
penalty
off,
whatsoever.
There was
Are
no
you
law.
kidding me?
You know, we'll get into that if you want. There was no law broken there, because what Congress had stipulated. Now, here, if you
Just
want to know,
lying.
and I'll be honest with
Wait,
you, folks.
just lying,
I'm
right?
going to give you the same lawyerly type answer that Franklin gives you all the time. But in that particular case, they said no U.S. funds could go there. No U.S. funds went.
Oh, yes, they did.
No, they didn't, Franklin. We sold,
CIA
and the profits went. Well,
So the
Franklin,
profits were
I just
ours?
said that's a lawyerly explanation, but it's the truth.
The point is, John, your suggestion that the Republican Party somehow has this mantle of morality attached to it is ludicrous.
Well, Franklin, it's not as ludicrous as the fact that your lady who was there during the Watergate is now doing much worse in the very same manner.
As
And
I
your president,
have
actually,
said,
we know has
as
kept
I
a
have
enemies
said,
list
as
just like
I
Nixon
have
did.
said, I agree that she made a mistake in the way she handled the emails.
Franklin, this is not a mistake.
John.
This is an admission of basically skirting the law. She is telling an underling to strip classified markings
That's not
off of
skirting
paper.
the law, John.
It's actually breaking the law. It's a
It's
federal
not,
crime.
John.
It's a federal crime to
It's
remove
not,
the
John.
classification headings,
It's
Franklin.
not, John.
Franklin, her own defense is you can't prove that he did it. If he did it, it's a federal crime. He will go to prison if we find that he did this.
No, he won't.
Well, under this Justice Department administration,
You're
you're
right.
probably right. But it is a federal crime.
This Justice
It was
Depart-
interesting how John got off the topic so quickly.
What topic?
The topic was about the State of the Union.
Well, we're not done with the
Oh,
State of the
no,
Union.
let's
address.
let's just talk about it. Let's get it over with. The State of the Union. It was it a good State of the Union last night? You think it was Obama's best speech?
His best speech?
Yeah.
No, I don't think it was his best speech, but
That's
I
what
thought it was
CNN was saying.
I
changed it to your channel last night.
I
so
thought
I
it was an
watched
effective speech in that it made a point that I've tried to make in here. in the past.
Tell me what it was.
I think the incessant negativity that it's horrible in America these days is just absurd.
And who has led that?
The incessant negativity? Oh, I would put that
All right,
squarely
Franklin.
in the lap of the
You're
Republican
right. So
Party.
let me ask you a question. So when the
And-
president's spokesman said that Republicans were acting like they had a bomb strapped to their chest, when they disagreed, along with a lot of Democrats, with the Iranian deal, and the White House spokesman said they were just the same as the Revolutionary Guard terrorists in Iran, who was that being negative?
Oh, in that case, it would be the
White
president's
House.
speaker, for sure. No question.
So anybody that disagreed
John,
with him, he's
what did
actually called them terrorists.
The president actually said that his greatest regret in office was his inability to get everybody past that. And he took some responsibility for that. So that's fine. That's
In
fine.
other words,
I would
That's
think-
fine.
One of the-
But the point I'm making is that to listen to these candidates in particular, you'd think that we live in the worst country in the world when there's so much good here. And it's got nothing to do with being a Republican or a Democrat. The sky hasn't fallen. And he
Well-
was right about that.
Well, let me ask you.
And let me go ahead and get this out right now while we're talking about it. Okay, I thought the Republican response was the best one that had ever been offered by the Republican Party.
I agree.
I think that lady would not be an embarrassment to the country if she was on somebody's.
Well, let me ask you a question. You were impressed with her?
I certainly was.
So her Democratic opponent in her reelection, when he publicly called her a whore, do you think the DNC should have had a little bit more to say about that?
Well, I don't know what the DNC
They said
has the Democratic National Committee has to do with a
he
race
was
in,
the
in South Carolina.
statewide governor's
But,
candidate.
no, I
for
don't think he
governor,
should do that.
And he called her a whore.
Well,
Wouldn't
apparently
that
the
say-
voters didn't like that.
Well,
did
no,
they?
apparently not. But apparently that's where the real war on women is, in the Democrat Party.
As I pointed out. However, she was pilloried this morning on good old Fox News for the horrible things she said last night.
Do you?
Let me give I'm going to agree with Franklin. I do think that his speech was really a good speech. I think it perfectly bookended his small-natured, petty, little man syndrome presidency, and I think historically it will go down. And when you're able, with a straight face, to brag on Syria as your foreign policy accomplishment, when 250,000 people have died, millions are now refugees, when people have been chemical gassed in that country because of your policies, and you actually say it's a success.
We're not to worry about things like that.
No,
That
I
is a
think
perfect example of his disconnect.
I think
We're
that,
not
reality.
well, I
supposed to
think
worry
there
about
is a
things like
there is
that.
a disconnect.
We're not supposed to worry about those type things.
There is a disconnect, and here's what it is. And you can argue whether it's good or bad, but this Republican Party is relentlessly focused on today.
Franklin,
Let me finish. Let me
is
finish my
Syria today?
statement.
The president
Let me
mentioned
finish
Syria
my
last
statement.
night.
Let me finish my statement. Then you can comment on it.
We've got to
This
get our
party
kumbaya going.
is-
Go ahead.
Is relentlessly focused on what's going on right now and pays very little attention to what the long-term implications are. I think this president, sometimes positively, sometimes negatively, is far more concerned with 10 years down the road than today. Sometimes that works out, sometimes it doesn't. But that's the huge difference in philosophy that you're seeing
let
on
me
display
agree
right
a
now.
little bit with him. He's probably right. What the president meant was that all of the 250,000 dead bodies in the mud in Syria gave him a platform to step on their bodies so he didn't have to sink into the mud. So all of the people that died, all of the millions of people that are refugees now, they paved the way for Obama's eventual success 10 years down the road. Thank you. Thank you for your sacrifice for Mr. Obama.
Let me say this: under the way things are going right now
The way things are going.
with the Democrats, okay, with Hillary.
Oh,
and
by
Bernie.
the way, they invited, two of them invited CARE representatives to the State of the Union address. CARE, who has actually been labeled as a terrorist sponsoring organization. CARE, who is an unindicted co-conspirator in some of our terrorist attacks. CARE, who refuses to condemn Hamas and Hezbollah. Two Democrat congressmen at the suggestion of Debbie Wasserman Schultz, the DNC chairman, invited them to the State of the Union last night.
What were you saying before you were interrupted too, Steve?
That I think Bernie's going to end up on top of Hillary when this is over with.
Why do you think that?
Well, right now, he's pulling ahead of her.
Only
He's
in those
drawing
two
bigger
states.
crowds than
he's 20 points behind nationally. 20, not 2 or 3. 20.
What is that many?
That's a lot.
Oh, it is. What about-
That's more than
how much is
20
she-
points
how
is
much-
more than any candidate in the Republican Party has except Donald
How
Trump.
much is she behind Trump?
They're running neck and neck in the national polls.
But she's behind all the rest of them.
Well, listen,
Last night, I will
listen
say
very
one thing. Republicans and Democrats were putting down Trump. They were trying to really put something down there, even in the response last night.
By the way,
Well, let me say this while you're on
I
that.
think
on
they're
that
both
subject.
scared of Trump.
If you want to talk about potential matchups, I think Trump is the more difficult matchup. I think Cruz is the easiest one.
Now, tell me what you mean by that.
Ted Cruz is almost universally despised by every elected Republican in Washington. Every one of them.
Mm-hmm.
They hate him. You could see their comments this week, just the venom dripping out of their mouth talking about him. He's going to have he would be the easiest candidate for her to face. Now, you might argue about other candidates that are in the race. I'm only using those two because they're so far ahead in the polls right now. If that changes, then we'll have a different discussion. Between the two, Trump is the much harder to run against, not because he's the best candidate or the best choice, but because he has had a remarkable ability thus far to have every criticism lobbed at him turned into an increase of his polls.
Here's what I think. I'm gonna shorten everything you just said. I think everything that that Republicans and Democrats stand for is wrong right now. Everything. I think Washington is a total screw up, and I think they're all scared of Trump because I think he's the one that's going to come in.
well, actually,
and
there's
change
some arguments.
I
Steve.
really don't think that Cruz debating Hillary is going to get you anything. I don't think anybody debating Hillary is going to get anything but more government, except Trump.
Well, actually, there's some thought that along the same lines as Franklin's saying, but he's misinterpreting the Cruz part of that. One of the reasons that they hate Cruz is because they don't think that Trump's eventually going to get there, and they're afraid Cruz could get there. And Cruz is just as hated by the establishment as Trump is. They just don't think Trump's going to make it. Cruz is the anti-Republican candidate. That's why all of the people in Washington, Franklin says all of the people in Washington hate him as if that's a bad thing.
Well,
most of us out here in the electorate think that's a good thing.
I understand that argument, but what they're talking about is people saying he can't even get. This happened twice in the last couple of weeks. I mean, there's just courtesies that senators
You're
offer
right.
each other.
And that's what's wrong with Washington.
Well, I say courtesies. I mean,
All right,
will you
Franklin.
yield me a little bit of your time? So
Well, let me give you a better
They won't
courtesy.
even do that for him.
McConnell, who passed a resolution in the Senate saying that McCain's immigration citizenship status was no problem, is refusing to do the same for Cruz. But guess what?
That's because Cruz called him a liar
But guess
on the
what?
Senate floor.
That's what's wrong with Washington.
Yes.
And Cruz is cut from the same cloth, and they're actually more afraid of Cruz because they're afraid he actually could go through and win. A lot of them don't think Trump's going to win. Now, I know you disagree with that. And by the way, Debbie Wasserman Schultz said the reason we picked Nikki Haley to give our response was because we have a diversity problem in the Republican Party. Now, that's a party who she was elected as the first Indian woman governor in the history of the country, with candidate groups running that includes a renowned African-American neurosurgeon, 2 Hispanic senators, a businesswoman, Bobby Jindal, who was the first Indian man elected. We've got from moderate to conservative to libertarians running, and we're the one with a diversity problem. They got 3 old white people.
I can't wait to hear what Trump's got to say about everything today.
By the way, Franklin, let me ask you a question.
Uh-oh, here we
During
go.
the State of the Union address, when the president specifically referenced his success in the Iran nuclear treaty,
He's so successful.
do you think the American public might have wanted a reassurance that the 2 Navy ships and the 10 Navy servicemen who Iran seized yesterday were going to be okay and going to be released? Do you think that was a pertinent thing for him to talk about?
No.
No. So the public doesn't need to know anything about that.
Well,
And that's a
first-
good
well,
example
first
of
of-
our relationship, right?
First of all, the people did already know about it.
Who? Not from the White House. They've had no statements. Jen Psaki made a statement that Iran has promised that they'll be okay.
And they did. They released him this morning.
Now, this is the same Iran.
Look,
Right.
they did that. Well, first of all, let's have some degree of reality here. They did exactly what we would have done. Exactly. If 2 Iranian Navy ships washed up on our shores, we'd have done exactly the same thing.
Well,
okay.
Did
And
they
so-
release him?
Yeah, this morning.
Franklin,
Absolutely.
do you know yesterday when this first happened, do you know what the John Kerry's office was tweeting about while this was going on?
I have no idea.
Cheese.
Great.
They were putting out tweets about cheese.
Okay.
While the Iranians were taking 2 of our ships and 10 of our sailors into custody.
Okay. And according to the reports I saw, John Kerry was quickly on the phone with his counterpart in Iran, received those assurances that they were going to be released, and in fact they were.
Now that's the
And
same-
by the way, before since you brought it up, what else happened in Iran this past week?
I don't know, Franklin.
You don't know? The Iranians shipped their entire enriched nuclear uranium stock to Russia as part of the agreement. And hold on, there's more, even bigger. They poured concrete into the middle of the heavy water reactor, which is what we were really concerned about, rendering it totally unusable forever.
Now that did any of that come from Fordow, the secret military site?
From the Arak, A-R-A-K site,
So it
which
didn't-
was the number one
Right.
place they had available to them to do that.
Based
That
on
all
what,
happened.
Franklin?
The UN inspectors.
Guess what, Franklin? Nobody outside of the Iranian government has been in the Fordow site. We don't even know what's in the Fordow site, do we?
We know a lot. John,
What do we know? We've never been in it.
because John,
By the way, Franklin, the president said that was insisted we had to be in it, and now we've never been in it. And you're over here,
bottom
we have
line-
no idea what they've done, Franklin. We have no idea what they have.
It's like science.
Franklin, they
Suddenly
launched a
left their
missile
brain.
within 1,500 feet of one of our aircraft carriers
They did-
just a week ago.
They
They've done
didn't
2
launch it
missiles.
toward it, though,
They've
did
done
they?
2 missile tests, nuclear-capable missile tests, that is a clear violation of the very agreement we're talking about. The White House said, oh, we're going to issue new sanctions, and within the same day came back and said, no, the Iranians have objected. We're not going to do it right now.
All of our allies have taken the position that they are in compliance with the nuclear agreement.
And by the way,
All of
Franklin,
them.
do you know what we had to do to get
All
our
of
Navy
them.
people back? Are you familiar with any of the diplomatic back and forth?
Well, since it just happened last night, how familiar could either of us be, John?
Well, I can tell you. You know what we did?
What's that?
We apologized to them. We apologized to the Iranians.
Okay.
Which I will have to say, that is probably the most successful part of Barack Obama's foreign policy. It's the apologizing for America. He is an absolute expert at that.
The world will look to us to help solve these problems, Mr. Obama said. The global challenges, and our answer needs to be more than tough talk or cause to carpet bomb civilians.
Oh, by the way, folks, I
Sure.
I don't want you to get too excited, but I do think you probably should really be looking at this. Anyone out there who has a loved one who's suffering from cancer, Joe Biden is going to cure cancer probably before the end of the year.
That is amongst the most cynical statements I've ever heard you make.
Franklin, Joe Biden couldn't negotiate a status of forces agreement with Iran. He's not a scientist. He's not a doctor. He's not a specialist in anything. He has no training whatsoever. And the president wastes time in a State of the Union address going, hey, we've decided we're going to cure cancer, and Joe Biden's the man.
And what's the one thing that got every single member
Well, who's
there?
against curing cancer, Franklin? But my gosh, come into the real world. Talk to us about real things.
You know what I think? I think putting somebody over a program that's designed to target federal funds into
This is
research
somebody that's
who has a real passionate interest in the subject is exactly what I
Franklin,
have.
this is someone who's never worked in the real world. He's been a government
John,
bureaucrat his entire life, and no expertise in this. Couldn't negotiate a status of forces agreement.
Somebody famous, John, at long last, have you no humanity?
Franklin, it's a ridiculous statement, and I'm just being blunt and honest. It's a ridiculous statement to put in a State of the Union address. Guess what, Franklin? We now know that Obamacare, Obamacare, instead of cutting a family's premium by $2,500 a year, which the president promised, has now raised the typical family's premium by $4,800. You want to do something for people's health? Fix your Obamacare disaster.
I don't know where you got that number,
Actually,
John.
I'll give it to you,
That's
Franklin.
not correct.
It is correct,
It's
actually.
not correct.
Franklin, the newest research just out this week, the group is Freedom Partners. It's actually did the math on the insurance premiums. 49 out of 50 states are seeing increases in their premiums this year. Mississippi is the only one down, and it's down 0.2%. 17 states will see a premium increase of 20% or more. Alaska will get a 39% increase. Tennessee is actually one of the top 5 increases in the country. That's Obamacare's result. So if the president wanted to say something about people's health care, that would have been something to say.
John, that was a lovely soliloquy, divorced from reality.
Just like the Joe Biden's going to cure cancer is divorced
He
from
didn't
reality.
say Joe Biden's
Well,
going to cure
now,
cancer.
John, let me just say something. He was just trying to warm everybody up because he didn't have anything else to talk about. Now, Joe Biden's son did die of cancer, so it was probably an appropriate thing to get everybody something cynical to think about. So, I think it was just a passing moment that really didn't have a whole lot to do with anything. Joe Biden's son died of cancer, like many other people have family members there, and it means a lot to them. So,
Well, let
there we
me, let
go.
me,
I
let
thought
me
he
just
said
say,
something warm and
whoever the
heartfelt.
next president is, whether it's a Democrat or it's a Republican, I hope that they put people into government who have passionate interests in the subject
Well, let me
that
ask
they're
you a
working
question,
on.
Franklin. Since you're going to defend this
Good,
so greatly, what did he propose? Is he increasing the National Institute of Health budget? Is he creating a new
Actually, the
department to
last
do
budget
research?
did do that.
Franklin, what's he going to do this time? He didn't give us a specific, did he? He just played the cancer card, which is what your party does. They play the woman card, they play the gay card, they play the cancer card. They will say anything to
John,
stay in power.
John, nobody could have possibly thought there was a single person in the room or watching who had any objection to that, except apparently you. Everybody would agree.
Franklin, I
Everybody,
didn't say
Democrats
that.
and
You're
Republicans,
missing the point.
Tea Party members, conservatives,
Maybe
flaming
this is hard
liberals,
for you to
all
follow.
would agree that the number one, the government's support for cancer research is the number one factor in whether or not it gets done or not.
Franklin?
Number two, the government ought to be
See
focusing
if
more
you can
attention
follow
on it.
this, okay? I'm not opposed to it. I'm not opposed to cancer research. I'm not opposed to it. That is what y'all do. If you oppose anything, you hate children. You want people to die. What I'm saying was it was a do-nothing, throwaway line that he put in there rather than actually telling the American people something substantive.
John, he
You
doesn't have
found
anything to say
wrong
something.
with working on cancer.
How's he going to say
Well,
anything positive?
You wanna know what I do?
Here's what I say.
All right.
And I've said it before, I'm going to say it again. Your hatred is so extreme that even cancer gets under your skin.
You know what else gets under my skin, Franklin?
Good Lord.
Women under 50 who can't have mammograms because Obama changed the guidelines. How about that one, Franklin? And by the way, mammograms, oh yes, that's to find breast cancer.
John.
So here's where the president
John.
wants to throw Joe Biden
John.
out there, wants to get a bunch of sympathy,
John.
but in actuality, he actually denied women under 50
Because
the
now-
ability to have
because
mammograms.
Now, according to you, the evil dictator president has got the American Medical Association in his back pocket.
Actually, it wasn't him. It was a government policy board that set that. You know, like the death panels that Sarah Palin
There are
mentioned.
no death panels, John.
Well, it's called the Independent Payment Advisory Board, and they determine these things, and that's who determined women under 50 don't need mammograms. So if you're a woman under 50,
does the
just
American
take the
Medical
independent.
Association say?
Well, of course, Franklin. They're all. This is crony capitalism. They're all in bed together. It's like GE.
all doctors are in bed.
No,
with
not
Barack
all
Obama.
doctors. The American Medical Association, which is not all doctors.
We got to take a break. We'll be right back.
You're listening to Backfire with Steve Hickson. We'll be right back after this.
You are listening to WOOP-LP, Cleveland, Tennessee. WOOP FM is a broadcasting service of the Traditional Music Resource Center, and we play America's original music.
Check into cash.
The cash you need today is waiting for you at Check Into Cash. It's your money, so come in and get it.
Get a payday advance today for up to $425. At Check Into Cash, we make it quick, easy, and confidential.
The cash you need is right here, so stop worrying and stop in to Check Into Cash today.
Borrowers often use payday advances over a period of months, which can be expensive. Restrictions apply. See store for details.
Guns, guns, and more guns. That's right, folks. U.S. Money Shops has just received a large shipment of pre-owned Glock 22s, 23s, and the awesome Beretta 8040D Cougar. These guns are law enforcement trade-ins that start at just $379.99 while supplies last. At U.S. Money Shops, there's no shortage of guns, so if you're looking for a great deal on a newer pre-owned gun, then check us out first.
Buy or sell or apply today. The better way at U.S. Money Shops.
Visit usmoneyshops.com for the location nearest you.
Hey Whoopsters, this is Johnny B. Jonesy, and I'm located at the Check Into Cash off Treasury Drive. That's next to the new Walmart, right between Cato's and the Tanny Company. Come visit me if you're in a financial pinch. We offer products all the way up to $425 on our payday advances, $2,500 on our title loans, and $4,000 on our line of credit. That offers the lowest rate guarantee, and we buy out titles anywhere, anytime. And that is 2314 Treasury Drive, Cleveland, Tennessee. And that number, 423-479-2166. New customers, mention Whoop FM and get cash back on your first loan. That's Check Into Cash. Ka-ching!
No dealers allowed.
Jackson Catnapper, family owned and operated in Cleveland since 1933, offering the best with over 70 styles of recliners, sofas, electronic lift chairs, full living room packages. Call Mike now at 961-7239 because Jackson Catnapper now offers sales to the public
Every Saturday. That's right, every Saturday.
from 8 in the morning to 1 in the afternoon. Or call Mike at 961-7239 or go see him
Every Saturday.
at 1911 King Edward Avenue, just across from the main plant. Jackson Catnapper, family owned and operated in Cleveland since 1933, 961-7239.
No dealers allowed. Yeah, you looking for something sweet? I know you are. Bring your little sweet self to the Village Bake Shop. Around since 1961, there ain't a baked good in the galaxy the Village Bake Shop can't whip up for you. So when you're ready to treat your mouth to a taste you won't soon forget, get over to the Village Bake Shop in the Village Green Town Center. Or give them a call at 476-5179. You dig?
If you need a little green, Lending Frog is making deals. He'll lend you cash on any kind of wheels. Borrow just a little, or you can borrow big. Lending Frog is a new financial gig. It's hip to hop into cash. LendingFrog.com is making a splash. Dig it, dig it. Dig it, dig it.
Hello, my name is Andy Figglestaller with Ed Jacobs & Associates. We are an employee benefit and insurance broker in business for the past 20 years. The new healthcare law, also known as Obamacare, has finally arrived. The law is complex and the choices are confusing. You have questions, we have the answers. It is our passion to find cost-effective solutions for every client. The solutions will be different for every person or business. Let our knowledge, experience, and passion go to work for you. Contact us today and let us assist you through this process. Our phone number is 423-473-0202, or you can find us on the web at edjacobs.com.
Train Endurance Engineers are an elite group of extremely devoted individuals who stop at nothing to push our heating and cooling units to the brink. That way, when they pick up the pieces, they'll know exactly how to make the Train we install in your home even more reliable. Right now, their target is a Train AC unit.
Test to control. Fire up the pitching machine.
Their methods may seem unconventional,
Okay, cue the jackhammers.
but it's because of their tireless efforts that it's hard to stop a Train.
When you want an unconventionally efficient heating and air unit that keeps your home right in the comfort zone day in and day out, nothing will do but a Train. To get the best Train service, call your local Train comfort specialist. Mechanical Systems, 336-5739. Keeping you comfortable is Mechanical Systems' only business, and they've been providing high-quality service and installations for more than 30 years. Mechanical Systems, 336-5739. That's 336-5739.
It's hard to stop a Train. Really hard.
You're listening to Backfire with Steve Hickson on Whoop FM. Call 423-614-5553 to join in on the conversation. Now, back to Backfire.
He came once a couple years ago.
All right, we're back.
Once.
We're back. We're back. I finally got them calmed down, folks. Everything's back in order here. Oh, we got a caller. Let's go ahead and take it. Go ahead, caller. You're live.
Good morning, Steve.
Good morning.
Good morning.
How's it going, everybody?
Everybody's lovely today.
I listened to the State of the Union last night, and one thing I heard that I agree with, but I believe it's a little late. I think it's going to be handed over to our next president, really, whoever she or he may be. And I have a question for you guys, and I don't mean to sound stupid, but who's the one that prints up all our money? The government?
Well, the Treasury Department prints it at the request of the Fed, and the Fed, a lot of people have some concerns because the founders didn't create the Fed. We created the Fed later and gave it a hell of a lot of power.
Well, I just wonder why is it that when our country's in a bind, they just can't print up enough money we need to help us out. What's keeping them from printing up the money that we need?
Well, actually, they are. They print about $83 billion a month the last probably 2 or 3 years and put it out. The problem with that is, as they print more money, the money can cause massive inflation. Because if you can just print more money, then the money doesn't mean as much. And so if I'm selling you a loaf of bread and all of a sudden there's a lot more money out there, you can pay me for that loaf of bread, but the guy that I buy my ingredients with, he's going to charge me more too. And so it causes inflation.
Well, you guys are helping me out a little bit because I've been racking my brain about this and trying to figure out why they can't, but I guess
Well, they can, and at various times in history, they have done that.
Well, actually, this is the largest infusion of that kind of cash we've ever seen in our economy, so we're not actually sure what it's going to do.
And as far as cancer, as far as you were talking about cancer a while ago, I lost both my parents to cancer, and if there is someone that can come up with a cure for cancer, they have my respect.
I agree, and there are people working on that all over the country. My point was it was a cynical kind of a throwaway for the president to do that, and I just think there are real issues that he should have been addressing rather than playing people's heartstrings for sympathy.
Well, I do appreciate you guys.
Hey, let me ask you something. Are you there?
Yeah.
Why do you think the interest rate's so low right now?
Why do I think our interest rates are so low?
Yeah. If you wanted to borrow money, why do you think interest rates are low?
I was going to say it's because our economy, but that don't make any sense either. I really don't have an answer for that.
They can't go up on the interest rates. If they did, our government would be broke. Am I right or wrong?
Well, the debt, we right now, the payments on the national debt alone are $500 billion a year. $500 billion.
If they go up on the interest rates, we couldn't afford to make the payments.
They're going to go up on the interest rate.
And that's going to cost us even more debt.
They're going to go up a minute hair. But they're not.
Well, that's how you always adjust rates. They didn't come down 3 or 4% at a time. They came
Yes,
down.
they did.
No, they came down small.
I remember when they got 20-something%.
Well, I do too. When was that? 1978?
Something like
75, 78, somewhere in there?
Well, that is something for Dan Rawls to call in and comment on. I don't have the, I'm just not up to that.
Thanks for calling, Bud.
All right, we'll see.
Bye.
Oh, by the way, he mentioned Dan Rawls, and that made me think of something. And Dan, it has nothing to do with you, so I don't know why it connected. But, we had this whole discussion of the EPB. Guess what? There's a private businessman in McDonald who has 200 customers that he provides internet service to, and basically EPB is going to put him out of business. They put him out of business in Hamilton County. So here you have our county commission endorsing government-run services, the government socialized internet services, and they are putting a private free enterprise person out of business. That's a taxpayer.
Mm-hmm. Well, I'd like to see how service works. Won't we invite him to come in? Do you know who the guy is?
It was in the paper last week.
I'd like to try to find him. Let's get him to come in and talk about it a little bit. What? What's this deal right now where you can buy some kind of little antenna and plug it in the back of your TV, and because they had to change everything to HD, now you can pick up television. That'd probably be a pretty good thing, wouldn't it?
Well, technology, the marketplace, capitalism will fix any of these problems if you give it a little time. But government always wants to stick their nose in before the private marketplace has had a chance to fix it. And by the way, they used McDonald to justify EPB coming in, but guess what? EPB's not limited to McDonald. They're coming into the entire county.
Yeah.
Well, they're already in a portion of South Bradley.
But now we're opening. My point is, when you use McDonald to justify something because they have this lack of ability to have service, then why are you then allowing them to come everywhere where we already have service? On top of the fact that this is the same McDonald community that came up and fought a rezoning to have a Dollar General store open down there. That's the kind of commercial development that would have led to increased services.
Now, are they going to? They're allowing this because it's supposed to cost us less money. Is that correct? In the future,
based on what?
I don't know.
That's what's so terrible about government. They just can make statements, and unfortunately, too many times our press kind of goes, well, they said it'd cost less money. And you're like, based on what?
Well, I assume comparison pricing in Chattanooga that they're doing now. I mean, there ought to be an easy comparison there. How much do they charge people down there compared to what we pay here? That doesn't seem like too hard a math to do. It's either true or it's false. I don't know. I have no idea.
Let's talk about the Powerball. You bought your ticket yet?
1 in 292.2 million chance
of
winning.
I bet you hadn't bought one, have you, John?
No.
I hadn't either.
I'll be honest with you. I bought one last week. I haven't bought one this week.
Our office goes in and buys one.
Here's how that works for me. I make this settlement in my mind that I'm going to donate $2 to education in the state of Tennessee, and I will buy a $2 ticket.
Every time somebody makes a bet or gambles, it's a risk-reward return. If you're putting your paycheck into lottery tickets, it's not a very wise investment. If you're putting $2 in, it's fun.
Yeah, and there was a study. I didn't even see the study, but I saw the headline that people that buy lottery tickets are happier. I'm not sure where that comes from. But I think you have to say, I'm going to make a donation, and it has to be something you can afford to make.
Let's take a call real quick. Go ahead, caller.
No, well, I just have a question.
Go ahead.
I want
just a red-headed wildcat?
Yes.
All right. Good morning.
I just want to know when they're putting wine in these grocery stores.
That's supposed to be happening sometime this summer.
This summer.
It's on track.
Yeah, this summer, I believe.
I never understood why they had that big time delay, but there was some reason that they put this time delay in.
That's what I'm waiting on.
You going to buy you some boons for him?
Instead of buying groceries, I'm just going to buy me a big old bucket full of wine.
You think you can get that on the food stamp program?
Well, I don't have food stamps, but I may go apply if there's enough wine.
All right, Red, thank you.
Bye.
But I will say, we were talking about the lottery. It amazes me. The lottery's really originally, now, you know, Tennessee, we had plenty of Republicans supported it, but the bulk of your opposition came from the Republicans, more on the conservative, maybe the Christian side to this. So it amazes me to see all the good liberals perfectly comfortable with a government-sponsored lottery. When I walk into some of these and I see people sitting in there all day with piles of scratch-off tickets, people that I know probably can't really afford to be spending that kind of money, it bothers me to see our own government prey on people's bad decisions. And spending that kind of money on a lottery chance, it is financially a bad decision. And so it does bother me to see the government prey on that, actually.
Well, it's a form of gambling. I mean, it's just gambling is what it is. It's
and gambling, we know, is an addictive activity. And people's lives have been ruined by it. And people's lives have been ruined by government-sponsored lottery gambling, not just casino gambling in Las Vegas.
You said while we was on a break that most lotteries last about 7 years.
No, what I said was, and this statistic is several years old, so it may have shifted some, but when we were first kind of getting into the lottery business, the average life of a state lottery before it began to lose money was 7 years. And the reason for that is two things happen. There's a lot of lottery fever, and so you generate a lot of sales, and then some of that interest sort of dies off. So naturally the demand drops and the lottery ticket sales drop. But the worst of it is the politicians view that money as a slush fund to buy votes out of. And so what they do is, if you start out with a lottery funding a scholarship for 3.5 GPA averages and up, very quickly the legislature will say, you know what, let's drop that to 3.0. Because that gets more people in his district to get that lottery, so they're happy with it. Then someone says, well, let's drop it to 2.5. And pretty soon what you do is you expand the scholarship pool bigger than the lottery is able to generate, and you begin to lose money. A couple of years ago, Georgia was $50 million a year in the hole on their scholarship.
How'd they turn that around?
They had to cut benefits. They had to come back in and actually change the structure of it and change and of course, as soon as you started changing the recipients of the scholarships, then you got charges of favoritism, charges of racism. You get into all kinds of problems.
All right, I was reading an article about this, and it talked about the lottery, you know, that it was sold on the windfall that the money was going to go towards education. They do have some money going towards education, but that is not the main target anymore. I don't think it's going to lots of different things, and also the amount of tax. In other words, if you win the lottery, then they tax you,
and that doesn't go.
That's federal income tax, though. That's not state tax.
It's tax generated from a lottery.
Actually, I think Tennessee has a gift tax.
Well, it's not a gift.
Well,
it is when you pay the government.
It's income. It's income.
It's a gift when you pay the government.
It's taxed like income.
I will say there was, and someone will have to correct me on this because I don't remember how this ended up working out. But I do know that, for example, my wife, when she was on the county commission, pushed some of the legislators to allow some of this money to be used for bricks and mortar. Because originally all that money had to go to scholarships.
Right.
And what she was looking at as a county commissioner is, as we're looking at right now, you got Lake Forest out here, we need to build a school. She would have liked to have seen some of that money come back, and it's still been education.
It's presently, the funds go to college grants, scholarships, after-school programs, and the Tennessee Promise Initiative, which is the free community college tuition.
Now, I will tell you this, there's another problem with this. When you track the rapid, just explosive growth in college tuition, it tracks back to government funding. As government has increased fundings for colleges, the cost of colleges has significantly increased.
You know, that came up in the speech last night also, I think, didn't it?
Sure. Mm-hmm.
Somewhere about it. But John's right on that, Franklin. It's the cost of education just keeps going up. And it's
it's one of been the largest, one of the largest areas that had the most inflation over the last 20 years.
Why is it going up, you think? Why is it?
Because of free money from the government.
Well, maybe. I'm not saying
Well,
he's wrong or right. I don't know the answer to that question. I do know that in terms of a percentage of people's income, the cost is dramatically higher now.
Well, here's the point, Steve. 30 years ago, when we were getting ready to go to college, if you wanted an engineering degree, you were going to go to Tennessee Tech, or you were going to go to Georgia Tech, or if you were really smart, you're going to go to MIT. There were schools that specialized in that.
Yeah.
There were schools that didn't even have an engineering program. Architecture at UT Knoxville was actually a very small program. It was beginning at that time, but it wasn't a real big program. So you had this school was sort of known for being great at this, and that school was known for being great at that. As the federal dollars start piling in, these schools go, well, we need an architecture program.
We can get some money
We
here.
need an engineering program. So they launched into these massive buying or building programs. They hire all this faculty. So now every school in the country can claim that they have a specialty program in every field. And the problem is there's not that much desire. All of that costs an inordinate amount of money. So now you really have just overbuilt your system, basically, and it's been overbuilt because of the massive amounts of federal and state dollars that poured into these universities.
So if that was cut back, what would happen?
Well, that is a problem, because once you do it, then you're kind of screwed.
I think John probably makes a reasonable argument about...
Okay, now wait a minute. I want to ring the bell on that. Go ahead.
I'm a big believer in blind squirrels, and so I want to give him credit for that. The idea that every university has to offer everything is probably a reasonable thing to talk about.
And then you've got another problem. I apologize if I get this wrong. I believe it was the president of Unum Provident down in Chattanooga. They had a round table with the college presidents down there, and they were talking about what they could do to help with the education level of our workforce. At the end of the meeting, they all get ready to get up and leave, and she says, hang on a minute, I've got one other thing I'd like to say. She said, I'd like to ask the college presidents, just how many sports management jobs do you think there actually are in Chattanooga, Tennessee? And they said the room went quiet. And she said, if you will send people to me with degrees that I can actually use, I'll hire them. Mm-hmm. That's a problem. We've got kids going to school now. They're taking Star Wars philosophy courses. They're taking stuff that is just absolutely ridiculously embarrassing in the world, because you don't get that kind of stuff in Germany or Japan. They're taking courses on how to kick our butts in the workforce. We're taking courses, we're producing these little philosophy majors that couldn't produce a dime in the economy. That's a problem for us.
And the cost of education
goes up and up and up.
Then they have a high price to pay back.
That's why you have bachelor's degrees working at McDonald's.
What is the average cost of an education now?
Oh, Lord, it's shockingly high.
You should know. Well, your son's scholarship, though.
He's playing football.
But you should have an idea what it is.
It's way above.
What is UT right now? Go to University of Tennessee.
Tuition?
Yeah.
I'm going to guess $16,000 a year in tuition. That's not counting books, room and board, all that stuff.
So you're going to spend $25,000 a year?
I think that's probably roughly 10 times what it was when I was in school.
Daniel,
I'd say it was about $800 a semester at the time.
I got an old iPhone 4. It takes me forever to look something up, so Daniel's going to look that up for us quicker, hopefully.
I'm just...
I want to change the subject a little bit. I heard something that kind of got my goat from Hillary. She made a comment, police violence terrorizes communities. Is that a correct statement?
Depends on the community.
Police violence. In other words, the police are bad?
Well, I don't think she said that. But
well, that's what it comes back to.
Look, here,
I mean, those are the kind of
don't give her a real hard time.
Hold on a minute.
She has a hard time.
This is one of those.
But police violence terrorizes communities.
This is one of those things where it's very difficult to have a fair and balanced national conversation when the facts on the ground are dramatically different at different places in the country.
Like Chicago, like Baltimore.
Even go past that though. Probably even by neighborhood, not just by city. That doesn't work out.
And Steve, look, keep in mind.
Do we have any police violence here in Bradley County that terrorizes communities?
As a systemic problem, I would say no.
Okay.
But Steve, keep in mind, Hillary has a hard time relating to day-to-day events. This is a woman that in 12 speeches made more than the average American will make in 3 lifetimes. So it's hard for her to actually understand what real people believe.
I heard a liberal the other day talk about free speech is not the same as hate speech.
That's true. It's not the same.
So who gets to define that? See, the problem with that is, Franklin, that's one of those
I didn't say we ought to stop it.
I know,
I
but
just
here's
said
the problem
there
with
is a
someone even saying that. Because then you go to the, how do you implement that? Then someone has to decide the difference. Who gets to decide the difference? Republicans, Democrats, blacks, whites, Asians?
Probably us as a society decide that, John.
I would assume. Probably. Unfortunately, it's probably decided by the media, and that's the scary thing. By the way, Hillary has now promised she will never use the term illegal immigrant again. She was actually asked to promise that, and she promised it.
But I can't get over police violence terrorizes communities. You know, I can't believe somebody running for a political office would even say anything like that.
Well, it's divisive, but guess what? That's what the Democrat Party does now. They divide and try to conquer. Let's see if we can divide America. The first black president has left the country more divided, more polarized than anyone. And the really sad thing is black America has suffered the most under this president economically and socially.
The Muslims in New York just won a $1.6 million lawsuit.
I don't know what you're talking about. I hadn't heard about this. I don't know.
There was a lawsuit. The ACLU was helping the Muslims sue New York over its attorney fees. And I can't remember. I'm sorry. I just lost my hearing my hearing aids here. Anyway, I'll move on then. Hillary's having a hard time with Bernie. Why do you think that, Franklin?
Bernie Sanders' biggest base of support right now are people under 35 years of age
who don't understand what socialism actually is in practice, because they haven't seen the mass cleansings in China, or the millions in the killing fields of Cambodia.
Well, first of all, there's a difference between communism and socialism.
Actually, according to the developers, Marx and Lenin, they said socialism was necessary for communism. That's a quote.
As I've said, there's a difference between those.
We've got to go here in just a moment, but there's an investigation into the foundation, Clinton Foundation, that started now.
That's the FBI. That's what we were talking about earlier.
Anything going to come from that, you think?
Well, I don't know. The story is that the FBI agents are going to be incensed if nothing comes of this, because they say people have gone to jail for less evidence than they're already finding.
Is Hillary in trouble, Franklin?
Not that I've seen thus far.
Not under this Justice Department. When you can have an investigation of the IRS scandal, you can have multiple people plead the fifth rather than testify, and no indictments come out of that, not even indictments, no firings come out of that, then they're not going to do anything.
If the Democrats do lose and Republicans get in, or Trump gets in, whichever way it may be, will there be any more of this investigation going on?
It should go no matter what.
It'll go away.
Well, it shouldn't.
It will, because it's politically motivated. It's just how it is.
Frankly, a lot of things can be.
I didn't
let me
say
ask you a question.
Whether you're right
it can
or
be
wrong.
politically motivated and still be correct.
I didn't
the Democrats
say,
in Watergate were politically motivated.
I just said that's my prediction. Nothing else.
Here's the problem with
I don't
that,
know what you're getting up in the air about it. I just made a prediction.
Yeah, but let me give you, here's what really frustrates me. Watergate was a politically motivated investigation, and yet Republicans like Howard Baker and Fred Thompson looked at it and said, motivation aside, the Nixon administration obviously has done something wrong. So they actually led the charge. They did the pertinent questioning. The Democrat Party of today will not do what Howard Baker and Fred Thompson did. They are not interested in the truth.
That's your opinion, John.
It always is. Hey, it's been another good week. We'll see you next week. Thanks for listening to Backfire.
And for those who are interested, it's a little bit late, but average cost of tuition.
15 California license plates went to illegal aliens.
Average cost of private school college this year, $32,405.
They're back with
32,000.
State residents were 9,000, and if you're out of state, 23,000.
I still think.
Thank you.
You've been listening to Backfire with Steve Hickson, John Stanberry, and Franklin Chansey. Catch them again on Whoop FM at noon today and every Wednesday morning from